Hello and welcome to Raw Chatter. I am your host speaking, Vicky Midwood, and I have got a really interesting podcast for you today, folks. I'm joined by the amazing Angelic Ingram, who is going to be sharing part of her very recent journey into stem cell therapy. And I'm going to let her explain what took her down that path and just what she's discovered from going on this just amazing health journey. So, Angelique, without further ado, over to you. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Vicky. Thanks for having me once again. And I'm really excited to be here today because this has really been a huge transformation in my life. And just to give a little background, I'm a holistic health practitioner, mindfulness coach, and author of the Women Thrive book, as Vicky is as well. And also I'm a volunteer and advocate for myositis. And I work for a nonprofit called Myositis Support and Understanding, where we are supporting the myositis community. And this touches my heart really because I was diagnosed with dermatomyositis just about 22 years ago when I was 32 years old. And what that is, it's an autoimmune, it's an inflammatory rare disease that affects the muscles and the skin. And when I was first diagnosed, my symptoms really kind of gradually came about, shortness of breath, muscle weakness, severe pain from head to toe. I also suffered from dysphagia. At the time, I wasn't able to swallow any food, so I had to drink my meals. And I was in a wheelchair by the time they diagnosed me, which it took them 4 months to do that, which I'm very lucky, actually, because there's so many patients out there that really don't get their diagnosis for years.
Yeah. And so, I'm just going to interject there because we met when we were both decided we want to share our stories on the Women Thrive. And the first time we spoke on the podcast, we went into detail, didn't we, about your whole journey and just how, as you say, fortunate you were, even though it sounds a ridiculously long time to get that diagnosis. There are a lot of people out there who just don't get it at all. And you were fortunate that you had a team that were able to spot it. And in the Women Thrive book, your chapter does talk about that whole journey and just what a scary time it was. But then this is kind of part two almost, isn't it, if you like? So this was 22 years ago, and then suddenly, woof, tell people what was going on.
Yes. So I acquired remission, so to speak, a few years after I started treatment back then. And until recently, last year in September, I relapsed. And I started to get those symptoms once again. And so, of course, I went straight in as soon as I knew, because I know my body now. Of course, I'm more in tune with my body and was able to seek my doctors and get that retreatment again. But I was also diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and Sjogren's syndrome as well. So now I'm battling 3 autoimmune conditions. And, a year ago today is just nearly, just over a year ago that I was again barely able to walk. The pain was really severe. And yeah, it was very scary coming out from a 20-year remission. Here I go again, and now battling 2 more autoimmune conditions. So, it was very scary.
But help people to understand that an autoimmune condition is where your immune system is starting to break down its own body, its own tissues. And the result of that is various symptoms. And you and I kind of connected on this because I've shared that when I was having my issues and wasn't getting a diagnosis for nearly 3 years and was offered antidepressants and told that it was a virus and it was early menopause and all that good stuff. Actually, in hindsight, when I look back now, the signs of Sjogren's were coming through. I just had never heard of it and didn't know what it was. And so when people like the tennis player Venus Williams share about the fact that she has it and is dealing with it, it is a livable condition, but what we need to help people to understand is there is no cure, or should I say there was no cure for autoimmune issues. And what tends to happen is when you get one, you then start collecting them. You start to get
so true. That's so true. There are so many piggyback conditions that pop up once we are, once our immune systems, it's attacking our own body. So it's,
And
great.
so Sjogren's, arthritis, and Hashimoto's are all very much linked together, and they all affect your muscles, your bones, and the tissues that create moisture in your body. And so to help people to understand what everybody's symptoms of Sjogren's are slightly different, but the tiredness is very real. The exhaustion is very real with it. But also it affects your eyes, your nose, your throat. So let people know just what were the symptoms that had you going, I need to catch this in the bud now.
Right. So for me, it was mainly the pain in my feet. So it started really with the rheumatoid arthritis.
Right.
And then those Sjogren's syndrome symptoms started to come up with like the dry eyes, the dry mouth. And that really was the most of it in terms of the Sjogren's, but it was mainly the rheumatoid arthritis that was really preventing me from living, a functional life. It was the pain in my feet, went up to my legs and into my wrists and hands. And rheumatoid arthritis can also cause a lot of deformity as well along the way, depending on how severe it is. So, of course, that was a worry for myself that I just, what's happening to my body and how is this going to play out, right? We all have those fears of, the uncertainty when these conditions come up. But again, I was grateful that I at least got these diagnoses and early enough to get back onto the treatment, which is basically what the same treatment that I had 22 years ago, which is the methotrexate. It's a small form of chemo. Put me on the weekly injections of those, and then the Plaquenil, the hydroxychloroquine thereafter. So I'm still on those two treatments, but I'm actually weaning off thanks to my stem cell therapy that I recently went under. So so that's basically, what I've been dealing with in terms of the symptoms. And what brought me into the stem cell therapy was my husband, who had a career of playing football, that European football, soccer. His knees were just completely shot. Just before, COVID, he did a lot of research into finding ways to help treat his horrible knees that he just could barely, walk himself. And so by doing his research, he found a place in Mexico who does the bone marrow stem cell. And he found that throughout his research that the bone marrow is more effective in joint pain. Right. So he decided to go down and get this therapy. And personally, at first I was like, okay, are you sure you want to go to Mexico for this therapy? I even had, an ill conception of, going down to Mexico and getting these kinds of therapies, because you always hear stories, right? And, I had a little concern about that, but he was determined. He knew that these doctors were, they've been surgeons for, 25 years plus, and it was legit. So we went down and he had his first treatment, and I'm not kidding. In a matter of like 3-4 weeks, he felt like the pain was subsiding. Like he was really beginning to able to like get up from a chair without pausing first to see if he's going to be able to walk forward. He was functioning again. And he said, oh my gosh, this is just incredible. So he had 2 other treatments. And the transformation, Vicky, was just amazing. And I was blown away by it. And so when I started to have these symptoms last year and I started seeing my rheumatologist again, my husband's like, why don't we talk to Dr. Gavino and see if this is something that can help you with these conditions, with autoimmunity? And I thought, well, no, there's no way. There's nothing that's going to help this. This is just my life, right? So he talked me into it, and I had a couple of meetings with the doctors, and they said, absolutely. They said, we treat patients all the time with autoimmune, whether it's lupus, MS, or, whatever those autoimmune, as long as your criteria, your blood is, if you're a good candidate. And right. So, they did an assessment. And even though I was on the medications, it was still a good qualification to get the therapy.
Oh, that's however, great. Oftentimes you kind of think, oh, if I'm on medication, they're going to tell me I'm going to have to come off it, or they're going to say no. But they didn't, did they?
No, they actually said it was an advancement. It's going to help the stem cell replace those toxic cells. And the chemo actually helps along with that because it's already doing that. Right. So I decided to go for it, and I started my treatment last November. I had 3 treatments in line, and they're each 4 months apart. So I started November, and I have to say my energy, because I was really, really struggling with the chronic fatigue with my RA and the Sjogren's. It was horrible, Vicky. I know that you can appreciate that chronic fatigue just never goes away. And so after my first treatment, I noticed that my energy was getting better, and my pain was still there,
right?
But the fatigue was subsiding, and I was excited about that. And it wasn't until my second treatment in March that I noticed my pain subsiding as well, and got better and better. And I was virtually pain-free when I received my 3rd treatment. And so I got my 3rd treatment in August this year, and I'm just doing so much better. The pain is literally gone. It's gone. I'm walking around again. I'm walking the streets of London again. I'm just with no pain, no swelling. My chronic fatigue is gone. I'm literally living as I was before. And I'm just so thrilled and so excited that this therapy has really, really transformed my health this way. And even my rheumatologist, she's like, wow. At first she was the same as me when I first heard about this. She's like, okay, wait a minute. Is this place,
legit? We do though, don't we? When it's abroad and it's in a different country, and as you say, you read horror stories and you kind of like, but then if you do your research and you have the conversations with the doctors themselves, you really do have to trust your own gut instinct. And obviously for you, your husband had kind of been your guinea pig. He'd been there before.
He sold me, definitely.
You knew it was legit because he'd got amazing results. So, but for you to feel no pain, because we met, didn't we? Back in, was it September or was it end of August? And you were just like skipping around. Somebody was full of energy. I was a little bit late, and you were like, yeah, I've just been walking around the shops, and you were absolutely fine. And I've seen you, fair enough, not in person, but on Zoom, when you have been trying so hard. In fact, because the symptoms came back when we were actually writing the book, didn't they?
That's right.
And there were times when you were on calls and you just had to go, because although you were there, I could tell that you were in so much discomfort, and it was really, really hard. And I think for people who do suffer autoimmune issues, it's a really difficult one, isn't it, for other people to understand, because on the outside, you look fine.
Right.
They can't see the struggles that go on internally and behind closed doors. And we put on this face and we try to just push through and to function because that's what we think we have to do. But at times it just gets a bit much. And the mental toll of that, plus the pain, is really hard on you, isn't it? And I think that's what people don't understand, because you think autoimmune, it's just physical symptoms. You can deal with the symptoms and then you'll be fine. But emotionally, it doesn't go away. It doesn't leave you, does it? But with this, it kind of does.
Yeah, it does, and it does. It really affects you mentally, and it's really hard to stay above water,
Mm.
um, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, when
Yeah.
you're not feeling well, and then on the outside, people aren't understanding,
Yeah.
why you can't do the things that you used to, and it's those expectations that really drag us down once again. But it's hard. It's a practice of letting go, of
Yeah.
letting those things go so that you can focus on your health. But with the stem cell therapy, it's so important for me to bring more awareness to this, because it is an option out there. It's an option, and it's not a cure by all means.
Nope.
It's not a cure, but it can help you live a more functional life
Yeah.
with autoimmunity, and it can help you even wean off the medications. I'm already weaning off my methotrexate. My doctor, my rheumatologist, was just, again, as I was saying, she was just floored by the numbers in my blood work and everything throughout the stem cell treatment. That she's like, well, hey, let's get you. Your numbers are great. You're doing well. Your joints are fine. There's no more pain. And for me, remission, according to her standards, was that, okay, you have to go at least 3 months without pain, without swelling,
Right.
and making sure that your numbers, your blood work is, at
Still
normal
good.
ranges again,
Yeah.
which they have been. And so now I'm weaning off my methotrexate. I'm so excited to
Cool.
finally get off of those injections. And then when I get back to the States next week, I'll be meeting with her again to see about weaning off the Plaquenil. So that's really important, especially for people with autoimmune, because these medications, there's so many side effects with these medications. So if there's a chance to be pain-free, have more energy, get off some of these medications, why not? And it's your own bone marrow. It's your own bone marrow stem cell.
Yeah.
And there's no
That's what I
chance
was
of
just going to ask you about, because I think a lot of people almost think of this being from something else, maybe from animals, and all kinds of stuff that gets thrown about via social media, or people who have a little bit of knowledge, which is always a dangerous thing. And back in the day, when they started practicing with stem cell therapy, of course, they did do practice it on animals, but with other animals. So this is where we just help people to understand, because you've explained it to me, and I think our listeners will find it fascinating how they actually do the therapy, because it's not as intrusive as perhaps it may sound, but it's not terrifically comfortable either, is it? So
no, it's not.
About just what is the process? What was the therapy?
So just to give a little bit more background on the stem cell, I think it's important for people to understand that there's so many different stem cells. And I mean, it's been around for 25 plus years. Women are getting in vitro. That's just a form of stem cells. Leukemia patients, you get a lot of blood transfusion. Those are stem cells. Those are donor stem cells. With bone marrow stem cell, and it's from your own bone, there's 3 different kinds of stem cells that are extracted in your own stem cell, and each one of those cells can self-renew, and they can become any type of cell that you need in your body. So they actually replace the toxic, damaged cells with the pure stem cell.
Cool.
And for me, what the therapy is it's a 4-day process. Each treatment. So you have usually, the patient will have 3 treatments at least, if not more, depending on the criteria. So for me, it was a 3 treatments, 4 days each, and the first 2 days, you're basically getting a vitamin cocktail infusion. So they're pumping you up with nutrients that kind of boost the immune system and get your body ready for the bone marrow extraction itself. And that happens on the 3rd day. And what they do, you go in and they give you a local, so you're awake, and they go in with a needle into your bone, into your hip bone. Right. Into your hip bone. And the extraction itself takes probably around 6 or 7 minutes. And then the remaining portion of the procedure is once they extract the stem cell, it goes straight into a bag of a protein liquid. And then once that's done, then it goes straight back into your bloodstream. You're already hooked up to an IV, and it goes right back into your bloodstream. And the procedure is done in about 45 minutes. And then that's it. You go back to the hotel. And this particular clinic that my husband and I went to, it's right over the border of San Diego and Tijuana, and it's like a 5-minute drive over the border. So, and they even offer a transportation service to help release, that anxiety, that stress of coming over the border. Yeah. They'll pick you up at the airport, or if you live in San Diego, in my case, they picked me up at my house. Wow. And they drove me over the border, took me straight to the, to the clinic, which is adjacent to the hotel. So everything that you need is right there. Mm-hmm. The medical center, you walk to the medical center from your hotel room. There's a bunch of restaurants, beautiful cafes. There's a wellness center, a spa there. But amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful center. But yeah, and then going back to the therapy, after the bone transfusion on the 3rd day, you go back in on the 4th day for another vitamin infusion. Right. And then that's it. That your driver takes you back over. Your driver will, and that's it. And so the only side effect from it is just the soreness from where they did the extraction. The needle, yeah, and that's it. And I'm back to doing. I can't do any exercise for a few days, but other than that, I'm back to my life. I'm walking again, and I'm doing my normal routine. And it's just been amazing, Vicky. I'm just so pleased that I did this and that I had the opportunity to do this. And that's why for me, it's so important to bring more awareness to this option for people who can, to come and get this therapy, because it's worth it. It's so worth it for me to live more functionally.
And that, I think, is the key, isn't it? Because who knows what will happen in the future. But obviously, at the moment, this is an option that has to be undertaken privately. And we suggest that people do their research. You mentioned the where the clinic was, and the fact that your husband did his research, spoke to the doctors, and all of that kind of stuff. And there are other clinics around who no doubt are obviously getting some great results as well. But we do need to let people know you're not going to be able to rock up in the UK to your local GP surgery and say, oh, I've listened to this podcast and I want stem cell therapy treatment.
That's right.
Autoimmune.
That's right.
Anyway.
No, not yet. Maybe. No, it is not covered by insurance. Unfortunately, it's not offered in the United States for very many reasons. Basically coming down to a lot of pharmaceutical conflicts or whatnot.
This is raw chatter, so we're just going to put it out there. The pharmaceutical companies make a shed ton of money over keeping you ill, treating symptoms with side effects of medications that they know need more medications to ease off the side effects. And so they are rolling in it. It's not in their interests to point you in the direction of something that will mean that you are making a dent in their profits. That's just Absolutely. The truth of it. Whether people want to hear it or not, I'm putting it out there, and so are you. Yeah. Pharmaceutical companies are not out to make you healthy. They are out to make a profit. Yes. But what we need to recognize, and you said it there, it's worth it if you want the quality of life. And that's about people deciding, where do they put their health and quality of life as a priority. And ultimately, it's a choice that I would love more people to be able to make, but we have to recognize it's not a cheap option at the moment, but hopefully it may come down a little bit. That being said, we want them to be excellent surgeons and people who know what they're doing. And we don't just want anybody jumping on the bandwagon doing it.
That's right. That's right.
Kind of, that.
Absolutely. And let me just add too, Vicky, that my my surgeons in Mexico were always happy to talk and communicate with my rheumatologist in San Diego.
Cool.
So they opened that communication line to offer the education around stem cell, because there's so many rheumatologists and doctors that aren't too familiar with how the bone marrow stem cell therapy works. And so they're always very happy to talk to your doctors as well along the way. There's no secrets, or there's nothing going, shady going on here.
Exactly. And that's so important to bring up. And I'm so glad you did, because what we have a lot of times when you get referred, especially in the UK, and I'm assuming it's kind of similar in the States, is the channels of communication are almost shuttered down. And I'm specializing in this, and I'm not going to talk to that person. But that wasn't the case, was it, with this clinic? Right.
No. And that was another peace of mind for me, that, okay, they're willing to talk to my doctors, and, and my rheumatologist was very appreciative of that. And, again, she's just blown away by this transformation. She's so happy for me. And I'm hoping that, this can help, some of her other patients maybe, take that, do the research and check with them and see, what their options are. So,
and this is why I really wanted you to come on, and thank you again for doing it, because we can read about stem cell therapy and it just all seems a little bit airy fairy because we don't know anybody who's actually had it.
right.
And so hearing you as just an ordinary person who decided to do it because her husband, who was into sport, decided to bite the bullet and take that little leap of faith, having done his research, and you saw that it worked. And this is where you're a real person. You're not just some fictitious celebrity that we've read about. Because I know some people listening may or may not be aware of Tony Robbins, and he spoke about his journey with stem cell treatment. But people kind of think, oh yeah, well, he's a big celebrity and he can afford this stuff, and that's not available to the everyday ordinary person. But as you've said, it absolutely is available. And so it's about you deciding, isn't it? Is it for you?
Right. And is the investment worth it? And I am here to say it's 100% worth it. Absolutely, it is. And they're always willing to work with you on that as well. Just again, do your research. Get out there, do your research, learn about these stem cells and how effective they can be for not just joint pain, but for autoimmune conditions. And it's just amazing stuff. And it's just been around for so long. And I can't believe that so many of us just are left in the dark about it, So yeah, absolutely. I'm just happy to be here to bring more awareness around it.
Yeah. And because people like us are shining the light on it, hopefully we will start to hear more about it and read more about it. But in terms of how you are still helping people with myositis, right? I don't know why I want to add in extra syllables to it. So, but you are doing an amazing work with a nonprofit on that score, and just even that as an issue is something that so many GPs and specialists haven't even heard of. So shining a light on that is also really, really important. So just tell people a little bit about the work that you do in that nonprofit.
Yes, so I've been a volunteer with MSU, Myositis Support and Understanding nonprofit, for about 1.5 years now. And we're really about just bringing more awareness to myositis. There's so many forms of it, and my form is dermatomyositis. There's also polymyositis, inclusion body myositis, and so many other forms of this disease that, depending on what stage, is very debilitating. Many, wheelchair-bound patients. So we're more about bringing more of the emotional support we have for so many different Zoom events, just to create that community and bring more awareness to it, because it's very isolating. As you know, these autoimmune conditions can be very isolating and play so much on our mental health. So it's important that we bring more support around that. And we also bring in the research. We also have a lot of medical researchers on our team as well, that bring in the clinical trials and all the different research around myositis. And it's important for us to educate our community with that. So what I do, I work a lot with their marketing as well, and getting it out there on social media. We're coming up with a new website pretty soon. We'll be launching that. We're really excited to be launching that. And we have, of course, Giving Tuesday coming up, which is a huge, the month of November is a huge month of, giving back to the communities, the things that are dear to your heart, which of course for me is myositis awareness. And so we're getting ready to, launch that big day of Giving Tuesday and bringing in some donations. We also offer, our donations go straight to, our financial assistance. We help patients with myositis that otherwise can't afford medical equipment that they might need in their home, or assistance with medical expenses and things like that. So we offer financial assistance as well to the community. So it's a wonderful, wonderful community. We're like family. We're always doing things together online. It's nationwide. We actually have a lot of patients from the UK as well that join in on our support groups. And it's just an amazing community. And I'm so happy to be a part of them. I wish I had them 22 years ago when I first was diagnosed, because it makes such a big difference to surround yourself with the people that truly understand what you're going through. And I wish I had this back then, but I'm glad I have them now.
Brilliant. It is so good. So for anybody listening who is suffering, especially if you're in the UK and you didn't even know that this was available to you, the links are going to be in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, they will be in the description. I want to say, Angelique, it is a delight to see you looking so well and to see you thriving again. Thank you for being my guest and for telling us all about this incredible surgery. And let's keep our eyes on what the future holds.
Absolutely. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much.
There you have it, folks. So stem cell therapy is the treatment that is hopefully going to be more and more available. And the more people that know about it, the better. And let me just sign off by saying, we only have one life as far as we know, and one body. Take care of it. It's taking care of you. I'll see you next time.